now that the dust has settled somewhat and we've all gotten our equilibrium back and recalibrated, and we're more zen and we're more centered after last week's barn burner edition of Wrestling with Egos, I brought the Big Don along with me for the muscle and the centering and all of those things that the intellectual savior of the wrestling masses counts on to get himself through another week. Thank you, as always, for consuming our content. We got some great feedback on last week's episode where we talked at length about Cody Rhodes and his impending decision, what may or may not come to pass. We're still waiting to have everything shake out as far as that goes. But we at Wrestling with Egos thought, let's have a little bit of a kinder, gentler edition this week. Have everybody just kind of woosah, breathe easy. The Big Don is here. Isaac, you can get him on Twitter at I4th. He's joining the intellectual savior of the wrestling masses. It's your boy Brian at BKrigo15 on the Twitters. You can holler at the show. It's Wrestling X Egos on Twitter. We appreciate your interaction. We appreciate your suggestions and your questions. My brother, what's going on this week?
Nothing much. Everything is good. Loving life. Can't complain. How are you doing?
I'm doing well. A nice week, productive week. And I look forward to dissecting the wrestling week that was with you tonight, good sir. The first thing I would like to do is I'm going to crib Bullet Club a little bit for this. And I'm going to say that, breaking news into the Wrestling with Egos news desk, that it appears that AEW is fine. Everything is fine. And I'm not even saying that tongue-in-cheek, boys and girls, because if you tuned into Dynamite this week, you were wondering, are they going to talk about the elephant in the room, or are they going to go forward with their content that they have been curating and their feuds that they have been presenting? And I think we got the answer to that in spades, because we had a big debut. We had another front runner for promo of the year, which we'll get into here briefly. And we also had some awesome in-ring action, as we've come to expect from that product and that company. Isaac, I want to start off by asking you a question.
All ears.
Do you think that AEW has the chops? Let's say that, we live in a world now where Cody is gone. Okay?
Okay.
He's not coming back. I know you seem to think that he might still come back, which that remains to be seen. Do you think now that, assuming Cody is gone, do you think AEW has the chops to not just survive as a viable wrestling production, but thrive as a viable wrestling production?
I'm going to say this as kindly as I possibly can. I'm not going to go off like a certain person did last week who was a little hyper. It's okay, though.
A little animated.
And that being said, abso-freaking-lutely. They have shown that they are just not one. They're not laying their cards on one person. And they have so much talent out there that so many people want to see. And they're spreading the wealth, as they put it, not to just one person, but showing off all the things that they have under their umbrella. And they're just not, it's just not like a one-trick pony, I want to say.
Exactly.
And I'm very excited to see where they go with it. But I've been excited with a lot of the people that they brought in, a lot of people that are still there, a lot of people that specifically are going to be there in the future, or possibly be there in the future. And I think that they have, as we're sitting here and we're talking about this company and where it's going, we're in the middle of WrestleMania season. And during WrestleMania season, we don't usually talk about another company. That's never been the thing. But right now, that's what we're doing. And I think that's a testament to them and what they're doing, and the fact that we have to sit here and say something about them and not, and not just say, oh, well, they're doing that over there. They're doing something significant.
And to be fair, if other voices were joining us on this show, AEW would not be the only promotion we're talking about during WrestleMania season, because I don't know what exactly is going on, but there's some significant stuff going on in Impact. There's some significant stuff going on in New Japan. There's, take your pick of this buffet, this charcuterie board, as the Lovebird and I are famous for creating for family weekend dinners and things like that. There's just so much to talk about, and it's great to be a wrestling fan right now. This is what you say. This is why we love professional wrestling. It's not just WWE anymore, because we could talk about WWE, and sometimes we would have fun talking about it, and sometimes it would be pure drudgery, which, let's face it, it has been from time to time, more often than not, let's face it. But if you are a person who is trying to advance the point that Cody leaving forces AEW, you've turned AEW into TNA, or you think they're going to be irrelevant, all you have to do is queue up this past Wednesday's Dynamite. Because I would argue that any show that produces 5 segments that went off as well as the 5 segments I'm about to bring up did, is doing just fine. They started off with a tag team battle royal. And after all the riffraff was eliminated, you were left with FTR, the Young Bucks, and Red Dragon vying for the right to be one of the teams that faces Jungle Boy and Luchasaurus for the tag team championships in a triple threat tag team match at Revolution. And in that match, they advanced the disintegrating nature of the Elite because Kyle O'Reilly saw an opening and screwed the Bucks out of a spot in that match. Now they got to go earn it again either this weekend or next Wednesday. I don't remember exactly.
I think it's next week, but yeah, exactly.
You start off with that, and you circle back to that with some intense promos between the two of them later on in the night, with Adam Cole as the linchpin. So you've got that wonderful storytelling. All the while, oh yeah, by the way, Adam Cole is trying to go after Hangman for the title, which is going to be a banger. Then you've got my favorite part of the evening, the Chris Jericho, Eddie Kingston face-to-face. Eddie Kingston is in another orbit right now. Okay? I'm sure we'll dissect that a little more. Then you had the Knights, or the Knights of the Black Table. I probably have that wrong. And that Knights of the House of Black. It's probably have the name wrong. Against the Bastard Pack and Penta Oscuro, which scared the crap out of me. Which is one of his personas from AAA. When he goes to the dark side, that's what that is, where he came up from behind the tombstone. And in the wreckage of that match, you had the debut of Buddy Matthews, formerly known as Buddy Murphy from WWE. You have that, and then you have another nominee for Promo of the Year, MJF, coming out and trying to get sympathy from you in advance of his dog collar match with CM Punk. My jaw was on the ground after that. I know what he's trying to do. I get it. But, man, if there weren't some brief moments where I felt sympathy for MJF the other night. And that's the whole point. Because it becomes the case of who's zooming who. My argument is this. If you are a show that centers that much on great in-ring action and brilliant storytelling every week, from not just your top guys either. 2.0. Hey, you want a taste? You want a taste of us getting involved in storytelling too? Even your bit players. I love 2.0. I think they're hilarious. If you want a taste, I love it. And then Daniel Bryan and Jon Moxley, and that war of words, they're bringing up all these other people. They're bringing up Dante Martin. They're bringing up Daniel Garcia and turning them into stone cold killers. AEW as a company, I think, has the chops to be just fine because the brain trust is still in place, even if you subtracted one person from it. And that's kind of the point that I was trying to make last week, is you take away the distraction of Cody, and now you look at this roster and think, my God, there's stories everywhere you look, and nothing gets lost in the shuffle. That's my opinion on the AEW situation. What say you?
The Daniel Garcia, Daniel Bryan match. Absolutely fantastic. Absolutely fantastic.
Especially for somebody like me who doesn't know much about Daniel Garcia.
You start to see how well, Daniel Bryan, how good he really is. And he's making they're making that match. It's headlining and it's fantastic. Absolutely perfection. I'm not gonna sit here and go into that. MJF, that's basically a master class. What he said. Him and CM Punk, the way that they have been wrestling each other, period. But what tops it off is the fact that both of them can spit. And both of them are very good at what they're doing. And they're turning it into a certified master class. And this is what you have to do to get to that next level. To the point where I'm sitting here and saying to myself, these guys are getting to not there yet, but to the point where you start to sit there and say, they're to the Undertaker, Shawn Michaels, WrestleMania 25, and how perfect these guys are doing when it comes to promos. And you can't sit here and deny it. And you can sit here and say, well, it's not as good as these guys are out there. And you're right, it's just not one segment that's you sit there and say, well, that was a great show. No, they're putting it together. They're putting the pieces together like a fantastic puzzle. Problem of it is you don't want that puzzle. You don't want to finish the puzzle because it's just that damn good.
Right. You wonder, because it's like that roller coaster that keeps getting to the closer to the tippy top. And our boy Patrick is a big time roller coaster fan, and he loves chasing that high. He doesn't like when it goes down to the bottom and the ride's over, because now it's like, oh, got to go back to the line again and do it all over again. But I feel like, and we're not breaking Revolution down this week. That's that's the chore for next week because it's next Saturday. The card for Revolution makes my head spin. More so than sitting here and wondering, my God, how are they going to fill 2 nights of WrestleMania? Yes, there's going to be some great matches at WrestleMania, but it makes you wonder, are we going to get, no killer, all filler, except for Bianca and Becky, and then Charlotte and Ronda, and then Brock and Roman, and then what else is going to go in there? Maybe a Kevin Owens Stone Cold confrontation. Crossing my fingers for an Edge versus AJ Styles, encounter, that kind of thing. AEW has so much meat on the bone. That's going to become my new go-to line. There's meat on that bone. I said it like 3 times last week. Which is why I think that as it stands right now, I mean, you could come back to me in July and say, well, Brian, what do you have to say now? And I might have a totally different answer for you. But they are doing everything the way you need to do it to establish your hardcore audience, and then you're strategically signing and retaining the right people to bring those other casual fans in. I think they're going gangbusters.
Plus, at the same time, they're developing that Thunder Rosa, Britt Baker match as well. I don't want to sit here and say, well, you guys didn't talk about that, because Thunder Rosa's been putting in some work.
Yes.
And that whole segment was fantastic at the same time.
And they're also developing Jade Cargill into an unstoppable force. And they're taking great stride. They have a passel now of women that they can run onto television, and that's the one maybe negative, is that you kind of push the women to the margins a little bit when anything outside of Britt and the title. But you have somebody like Chris Statlander that can show up in a best friend segment. You have Serena Deeb that can, indoctrinate a fresh-faced rookie making their debut on, and people like that you can run onto TV, to continue that. But I think the Jade Cargill news is smart, because now that's the next up and comer. That might be like, say Thunder does beat Britt, Rosa beats Britt this weekend. Maybe then you run Jade at her, and maybe Jade holds both titles. And what kind of a statement would that make?
I still think
Just a thought.
I hear what you're saying. I still think she's a little too green.
I agree.
With the talented roster of women that are there, and yes, there are going to be some other women that I would sit here and say, you know what, groom her to get to that next level, and she still needs to get there. That's all I'm saying.
Right.
I think she has the potential, but I still think it's everyone else. She still has to be able to control that match and lead. And I don't think she's not there yet. There are other people that can do it, and there are other people that can help her get there. Just not there yet.
And I have an early fearless prediction for Evolution.
Okay, go ahead, please.
Eddie Kingston is going to get his biggest AEW win to date.
Absolutely.
Eddie, I probably feel as strongly about that match as any other match you could make me pick. We'll get into our predictions next week and all that, but I think it's time for Eddie to get that signature match. And whether Chris Jericho retires as a result of it or just goes to commentary or whatever, because don't get me wrong, I appreciate everything that Chris Jericho has done for the first 3 years of AEW. In a lot of cases, he's an OG over there, who brought up all of these people and made a lot of these guys, helped introduce the world to Santana and Ortiz and Sammy Guevara and people like that. Feuded with Orange Cassidy, and that was probably what made me take notice of Orange, was the feud that he had with Jericho, with the Mimosa Mayhem and all that kind of stuff. But it's probably time, for Eddie Kingston, even though he resists the adulation, like he's famous for saying, it's time for him to get some laurels here, and it's time for him to put that stamp on. We all say we want to see Eddie Kingston as AEW champion down the road. This is that win that makes people stand up and say, well, why not have him go after somebody, for the championship?
It's the stepping stone.
Yeah.
And it's what's going to catapult him to main event status. And Jericho, just like any other champion in the past, when he knows, okay, my time's not all the way up, or I think I still may have a run left, whatever the case may be, but it's time for me to make all these other people. I want to say a name and not get blasted for it, but this is what the case is. I used Chris Benoit when he won the match at WrestleMania 20. His first match that he faced after that was against Shawn Michaels, and then the next title defense was against Triple H. Now, yes, both of them put him over at WrestleMania 20, but at the same time, they kept putting him on over months after that to give
him. Don't forget, Kane was in there too.
The credibility. Well, you got other people are giving him the credibility that he needed to have as a champion, and I think that's what you need to do. And that's one of my main grudges that I have against WWE, especially when it came to Big E, who did everything he needed to do, and then you just pawned it off to Brock Lesnar. And that's what kind of hurts me. If you had at least let him keep the title for another month, but made him credible and beating 5 other champions at the time, it would have been 10 times better. But, it made him look better overall. But that's a personal thing against me. I get it. I'm kind of mad about it. Am I? Yeah.
I
That's
understand.
so, but yeah, that's what I wanted to say.
So, and as I said, we will be unpacking Revolution big time next week as we roll into Revolution season. We're going to spend most of the rest of our show saying positive things about WWE, but something that not so positive came out this week. And I believe it was either yesterday or today, the news broke that Cesaro has left the company. Whether it was he was released from his contract or whether it was the contract just came up and did not get renewed. But Cesaro is no longer with the company. So Claudio Castagnoli, which is his real name, is now a free agent. Isaac, a two-part question for you.
Okay.
Number one, where do you think WWE made a mistake? Because we can all admit they made a mistake, but what was the mistake they made with him? And then you can't answer AEW to the second part of the question. Where does he wind up?
Okay, first.
For Maximum Impact.
Okay, first part one of your question. Where they messed up. They didn't push him to have a feud with Roman. After WrestleMania, after his patented move that he did against Seth Rollins, and Seth made him look fantastic. And we all know he did. That move was amazing. You stood there like, oh my God. I'm not gonna be, it was what it was. That was your chance right then and there to catapult him. Excuse me, I'm gonna use that word tonight. To main event status.
I like it.
And you didn't do that. And this is where I have a real difficult problem with. I'm sorry, I gotta say WWE. They having these guys do one and dones against Roman. And you have someone like a Cesaro sitting on the sidelines. You have your boy Finn Balor sitting on the sidelines. You have all these guys that are sitting here on the sidelines but you're only putting over one guy. And you're just feeding him and feeding him and feeding him. And then in the process that you feed him to Roman, they eventually get let go.
Yeah.
Within the next 6 months, which is horrible.
There was a list making the rounds on Twitter at the beginning of the week because he's gone over, I forget how many days. It's like 500 and something days as champion or something like that now for Roman. And the list of people that he's defeated is impressive. But you look at the amount of guys that, like you say, just got one title shot and then back to the back of the line you went, that kind of thing.
Or showed the door.
Right. You look at the great feuds that WWE has had. Triple H and Batista, for example. It was a great feud because it lasted for 3 pay-per-views. It was all the build-up in Evolution breaking up and Willie Irwoni and the thumbs down and the power bomb through the table and all that stuff. That gave us WrestleMania 21. It gave us Backlash, and it gave us the fully loaded Hell in a Cell match. I think it was fully loaded. They might have changed the names of the pay-per-view by that point.
I hear what you're saying.
But that was a great trilogy, and it legitimized Batista. And Triple H knew that, okay, I can give some of my shine to him. I'm not going to lose anything because of it. I'll let you answer the second part of the question here in a minute. My problem is when WWE decided to push Cesaro. I feel like this should have happened a lot sooner, like 2018, 2019. I know he was in the bar with Sheamus, and that was a great thing. And, then he was in the tag team with Shinsuke, and that was great for a while and stuff like that. But you lost all of that prime time by pigeonholing him as a tag team wrestler when you could have been inserting him into a match. Let him have a match with Brock. Can you imagine how that would have gone? I mean, Cesaro is no pushover. I think that's the problem, is that Cesaro has a skill set. You know, he's pound for pound one of the strongest guys in the game. We've established this on many different times. He's a great technical wrestler. He's the guy that could take Brock into deep waters like Daniel Bryan did, like Finn Balor did, you know, like Bobby Lashley can do, and so on and so forth. And it's not a squash match, but that's what Brock gets paid his nice, juicy, fat contract for, is squash matches, unfortunately. So that's where I feel like the mistake was made, was not pulling the trigger on him sooner as a singles top flight competitor. Where do you think he winds up? And you can't say AEW, because I feel like that's the temptation, is to put everybody in AEW, and we know that doesn't work.
Okay. WEA. No, it's backward. I'm joking. I'm sorry. It's too easy.
Now,
right now, I honestly, no, I got it. I'm sorry, but that was
you
just
starting your own promotion?
I was thinking like that's funny, but I digress. Honestly, I think that
was good.
I think that he's probably going to end up in the Impact, but it won't be just right now. That would be like 6 months.
Yeah, because there's it's probably a 90-day non-compete. Yeah.
But if he wants to do I think that he might just want to do something totally different and go to Japan. And I think that's where he would. I mean, I really think he would really thrive in Japan. Right now.
And that would be my answer to the question. We New Japan, because, you know, the amount of dream matches he could have with people over there. I mean, him and Will Ospreay would be awesome. Him and Okada would be awesome. Him and Tanahashi would be nice to see, you know, and so on and so forth. You know, and he can go either way with it. I mean, he can do the serious matches, but he can also do the comedy. So if you want to, you want to have a Toru Yano Cesaro match, I think that would be entertaining. You want to have a Cesaro Great-O-Khan match, I think that would be entertaining. But for him, it's all about what's the great challenge, because we know that this guy loves the challenge. And New Japan would for sure. I mean, he speaks all these languages. I wonder if he speaks Japanese. If not, he could probably learn it.
Guy's genius.
Yeah. So the intelligence is there, the ring acumen is there, and he's still got miles left on those tires. You know, and he'll go to a place where he's used properly. You know, I'm just loath to say now that every time, somebody gets let go, oh, they're going to AEW, because boys and girls, not everybody can go to AEW, because I feel like we're still near that tipping point, because there's going to be some people that aren't retained over the next several weeks and months because their contracts are going to be coming up, and not everybody gets to stay. That's just part of doing business. So there are going to be some people, trying to, seek their entertainment elsewhere. It's just unfortunate. I mean, and we've mentioned this before. I know I've mentioned on the show before, when you are in the talent acquisition mode, as the WWE was for so long, and you're signing guys just so that other people can't sign them and use them, just to say, it's like, it's kind of like I was for the longest time collecting baseball cards. It's great if you collect baseball cards, but if they sit in an album in the recesses of your closet, and you don't take them out and look at them, or you don't trade them with your friends, or you don't, sell them on eBay or whatever so that somebody else can enjoy them, what's the point? WWE has all these guys, more guys than, quite honestly, they had TV time for or creative juices for. And that's why they find themselves in the state they're in.
I agree 100%. I also think that Vince needs to realize he can't micromanage everything as he has done in the past, and he's still trying to do. And I saw that his mother or his grandmother had just passed, and she was 100 or something years old.
Oh
God
my.
bless for that. But at the same time, they're like, well, Vince can still do it when he's that age. We don't know. We were sitting here
No,
arguing,
you don't
and
need that.
he can't do it.
No.
And you can't micromanage that way. You have to let some things go. And you've let a lot of people go, which is fine. I get it. I I understand, but what I'm saying is you had all this talent just sitting there doing nothing at craft services when you could have been using all these people, and you have all this talent, and then you just got rid of them, and then you stood here and said, hey, well, we we cleared $1 billion in profit last year. Yeah, you cleared it because half of $1 billion you let go. You
Yeah.
know, that's so that's not really, it's deceiving. But anyone that knows the wrestling business knows that was hot garbage. It was. And to sit here and say, yeah, we were profitable during a recession, dude, we're all not stupid.
Yeah.
So I mean,
Well,
I'm
despite all of that, that's a hard segue to be handed, but I'm gonna make it work. I got universally laughed out of the show chat this week when I suggested this segment. I thought, all y'all, you all were snickering.
y'all.
Yeah, you all, you were like, crying emojis and all this kind of stuff, and that's torture, and that was your quote, by the way. That sounds like torture.
I thought it was pretty funny because
Show us that graphic. Right there it is, right there. You show the graphic. I thought that despite all of the negative things that we say about WWE week to week, we would challenge each other to come up with 5 positive things to say about WWE. Because you listen to us talk and you think, oh my God, they're terrible and it's all doom and gloom and, I can't watch this product. I would argue there's some good things going on. And so, Isaac, would you like to go first with your first one, or would you like me to start it off?
Please, I would like you to begin.
Okay. The first good thing that WWE is doing right now, they have done a masterful job every time Edge gets the microphone and gets in the ring. You understand the gravity behind his promos because he knows this is his last great, impactful run in WWE. We don't know how much longer he can do all of this. We are thankful that he's been in great health. We are thankful that he's had some great feuds over the last several years, and so on and so forth. But the promo he gave on Monday was absolute fire, and it led us to go in several different directions with who he might be talking about, who he wants to step up and challenge him. But the way they framed his face, so his face took up basically the entire television screen, and you saw like the veins in his head pulsating and the streaks of gray in his hair like waving when the light catches it and things like that. And you felt the visceralness of his words. He's craving that big WrestleMania match. I personally think it's going to be Edge versus AJ Styles, which of course I'm here for that. But you parse the words of the promo, and he could be talking also about Finn Balor. He could also be talking about Cody. He could be talking about Ricochet. He could be talking about any number of people. So that's my first thing. And again, you got the right guy with the chops of Edge. He's already an established guy, and you don't need to do that much, micromanaging with him. When he's on point, he's one of the best promos in the business, and he's going to deliver in the ring.
I agree with everything that you said. Now, I want to just veer away from it real quick. And as you talked about with our friend Edge, I would, me personally, being selfish, I want Edge, AJ Styles. Me being selfish as hell. And and just to piggyback on what you just said, you're right. Edge is on probably one of his last runs. But in turn, we could also say the same thing for AJ Styles. He's got a lot, he has a lot of miles on those tires.
He
And
does.
openly said, I want Edge. This is the best and only time that they are both in the same company and they both don't really have anything else going on. This is this is the shut up and take my money
Which
match.
reminds me that he just re-signed a new contract, AJ. Smart, good on WWE for locking him up for, I think it's another 3 years or something like that. It's going to be, you know, and the rumor is he is scheduled for a big push. That probably means another title run, maybe end of the year, something like that. But in the meantime, he can deliver a WrestleMania banger with Edge, and I will be here for it.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Okay. The other thing that I like that the WWE is doing is that they have Roman Reigns as the champion, as the champion, and having him and his brothers and his cousins be where they are and to dominate everything that they're doing. Sometimes I like it, other times it's like, dude, this is a little too much. But they have him being so high up on a pedestal right now that you can believe he's running the WWE. I like that, but at the same time, he has to have someone else. He has to have someone that that can be as great as he can be and make him shine even more than he already is. I think that they're doing that. You know, I like the fact that, you know, he is doing what he's doing. I still think, you know, that we've been doing this for a very long time, and you gotta eventually bring it down. But he being at the top of his game, he's doing quite well and making everyone acknowledge him.
See, that's a tricky one for me because I like that Roman has found this version of his character and gone to dizzying heights with it as the kingmaker, the decider, all of those kinds of things. But there are times when I get a little bored with it. I will freely admit, because I guess I'm just like the next person. I want to know, okay, who's next? Who are you running at him next? And will this guy be the one to topple him? I guess I just don't see how they do that. Because they have to actually be in the business of building somebody inside the company. I'm not talking about part-timers, that would come back and try to step to him and stuff like that. And yes, I was pointing over my shoulder because I feel like the time for that, I feel like the time for that has come and gone. And I really feel like, this is one of the reasons I can't stand COVID so much, because I feel like this would have happened already if not for the pandemic. Because Rock would have found a way to make his schedule line up, if the anticipation was there. He's not. Here's how I think that should go. If that were to happen, Rock comes at the end of some pay-per-view and steps to him. And by the time that Roman vanquishes The Rock, because I don't think The Rock should be the one to take the championship off of him. I think The Rock is one of those go out on your shield kind of things. But then whomever it is from inside the company that you've built up, whether it's, and I'm just tossing names out here, whether it's Matt Riddle or whether it's Braun Breaker,
Drew McIntyre,
whomever. You've built them up to such a point that when that person inevitably comes out and stares down Roman, Roman's quaking in his boots a little bit. You know, because the present landscape, there's nobody to do that, because Brock's probably going to drop the title at Mania and go away, you know, again. That's probably what the end game of that is. So, but that's just speculation on my part. The next thing that I like, and it actually has to do with Brock, and I can't believe I'm about to say this, because faithful viewers of this show will know that I am not the world's biggest Brock Lesnar fan.
Me either.
But I do like their treatment of him the last several months, because now that he is free somewhat from Paul Heyman, he's been given the microphone on occasion. And he has been cutting what are, for him, serviceable promos. He doesn't spend a lot of time on the microphone, but the fans love it when he comes out in the, you know, the Southwestern Afghan lumberjack shirts and the cowboy hat that comes down over his eyebrows. And he's walking up to fans and letting them put their hands on the title, and he's, you know, tousling the little kid's hair and stuff like that. This is a side of Brock I never thought I would see, and we never really have seen ever since he debuted. He had maybe like one face run for like 5 minutes in 2003 when he was feuding with Kurt Angle, as I recall. Or 2004 or whatever it was. But this treatment of Brock is actually kind of interesting. And that's my best word for it. It's not like I'm you know, his number one fan now all of a sudden. But it's what I've been clamoring for them to do for a while. Like, you know, there's nothing wrong, buddy, with you taking the microphone every once in a while and telling us what you're feeling. You know, and a couple of sentences is all you really need so that you know how he's feeling. So that's my second thing that I like.
Okay. I wanna piggyback on what you just said. And I want to completely agree with everything that you just said. Having Brock on the mic by himself, not having Paul Heyman do the intro, or sometimes Brock even doing his own intro is just entertaining in and of itself. It's absolutely perfect. And this is right. This isn't the side of Brock that we've ever seen before, or they've only done. Instead of, you know, having someone else be the mouthpiece for him. And I think it's great for him. It gives him a lot more depth. You know, it's very similar to not having someone like when Steve Austin was the $1 million champion, having Ted DiBiase say everything that he needed to say for him. I look at it like Stone Cold finally came up, his promo, and this is the same thing that's happening with Brock. I think that's fantastic, and I'm there for it. And I'm really, really happy that he's getting that chance and opportunity to show that he's able to do it. Now, with that being said, let me go into the second thing that I'm really liking right now, and that is the development of Bron Breakker in NXT. We didn't say it had to be Raw or SmackDown, but Bron Breakker is looking as he's going to be a viable champion for the very future of NXT 2.0 or NXT, however we're going to phrase it. But the bottom line of that is, I really think he's going to be the foundation. I think that he's got a good solid foundation. Obviously, we know who his father is. We know who his daddy is. We know who his uncle. We don't need to go into that. But I am going to sit here and tell you that I also think that he has that I'm just going to come out here and beat your ass type of attitude of a person. And that's what we really need right now. And I think that he's going to take it to the next level. I'm really, really excited to see where they go with him personally. I hope they don't bring him up this soon. I'd let him get his feet wet in NXT, and when the time is right, bring him up, whenever that might be. Or just don't let him go like they let everybody else on the planet go.
Yeah.
So
something tells me he's going to be around for a while. I still don't know what to make of him. I'm still a little wait and see.
okay.
Because I still feel like he came out of nowhere, quite honestly. Like all of a sudden it was like,
Hi, you're here.
yeah, and you're being pushed so far so fast. It's like, wait a minute, that's not usually how we do things in NXT. Usually there's a slow burn, but then again, when you consider that, more people around Vince have their paws on NXT, and it's really just Sean down there running the show, you can understand why that push is happening a little bit faster. The next thing that I like that is going on, I'll highlight the ladies for a little bit, and not necessarily the ladies that you think I'm going to highlight. I like how they are recalibrating Ronda Rousey.
Okay.
Because when Ronda first came back, she was acting all holier than thou, and they said, we need you to act like the baby face in this feud with Charlotte. So Ronda has kind of gone back to that middle ground, a little bit more of a baby face, not overtly like, oh, I'm smiling and I'm so happy to be here kind of thing, but she can go into that serious mode when she needs to, but they've recalibrated her a little bit, and they're reestablishing Bianca Belair as the person who is inevitably going to take the Raw Women's Championship off of Becky Lynch. While they are reestablishing Bianca, they're also, a rising tide brings up all boats. Bianca's had some great matches with Doudrop the last couple of weeks. That shows Doudrop's athleticism and shows Bianca's athleticism in spades. So I'm happy that the women's division is starting to be more than just the horsewomen. Because again, I like depth. I want to see. It's the same thing with AEW. I talk about how they need to work on their depth as far as the women go. It'll be even better when, Bayley and Asuka inevitably come back from their injuries, but you can't just run them at Charlotte either. It's got to be about some of these other girls that have been there, have stayed healthy, and have, earned the right to be in that spot.
I agree with you 100%. I also want to put some, I don't want them to just automatically give Alexa Bliss the title. I also want them to bring back Rhea Ripley to the title picture. I think she deserves it. I think she earned it. I know we all want to push for people to come back and get the title immediately. Alexa Bliss.
There's only so many titles to go around.
Exactly. But I agree with you. They're showing the depth in that division, and it looks good. And they've been putting on some banger shows. So I'm not going to sit here and undermine them in any way, shape, or form. I agree with you, and you're completely right. My scrunch face that I had earlier, just a minute ago, was when you said you were going to talk about the ladies. I honestly thought you were going to talk about the ladies at NXT, because I also think they have been putting in some work. Mandy Rose and Toxic Attraction.
They have.
And at the same time, they're developing that brand as well. And Mandy's looking good, and you have all these other young women. They're putting in work, and I want to make sure that we sit here and acknowledge them, and we see what you're doing, and we like what you're doing, and I'm gonna be sitting here watching with anticipation of where you guys go with it, and I'm gonna be happy with it. So I don't want to sit here and just talk about the women on the main roster. The women that are coming up are also putting in some fantastic work at the same time. So that's why I wanted to go with that. So.
And when they're ready for the championship, the Robert Stone brand will be there to represent them. Sorry.
Ladies and gentlemen, help me. Help me.
Just kidding. Big ups to Robert Stone for coming up with ways to stay relevant. I thought he would have been gone 2 years ago. I mean,
I know, right? Like, what?
Somebody must know where the bodies are buried. That's all I can say.
He's got some on there. So that's all I'm saying.
And I'm not saying. I'm just saying.
Just saying.
What direction you going in next, sir?
Okay, I thought you were up next, but I am
No,
going.
because I talked about Bianca and Ronda, and you piggybacked off of it. Unless that was your next one.
That was my next one. Was with the women's NXT.
Okay, then that's fine. Then I will go back into the batter's box, and I will give Kevin Owens some props for the way he has basically been driving the bus through his interviews and his tweets and his fan interactions about this supposed interaction that he will have with Stone Cold Steve Austin at WrestleMania. You know, from the obvious touches where he uses the stunner as a finishing move right now to never passing up an opportunity to run down the state of Texas. I saw a tweet from the other day where he's on this date in 2017. I won my first match in WWE against John Cena. It was one of the greatest moments of my life. But there's one little stain on that moment. It happened in the state of Texas. And I'm like, oh, geez. So, but props to him because he's really taking the mantle of what John Cena and Rock were doing in the once in a lifetime feud and driving that through social media and, you know, trying and doing war of words that way. But it's really one-sided right now. You don't hear a lot of response from Austin because all he's going to do is he's going to walk out there, just, you know, stutter, you know, that kind of thing. But
have some Steve Weisers.
Yes. And then, but I like that Kevin Owens is being trusted to drive the bus on this feud, you know, one-sided though it might be, and that he's the only person on the bus right now. But the fact that he's doing the work to make us wonder what kind of an interaction they're going to have, I think that's a great thing that's going on as well.
Okay. My next thing that I like what WWE is doing is the fact that they gave Lita the chance to shine in Saudi Arabia, and the fact that the fans in Saudi Arabia truly appreciated how hard Lita was working. And shout out to Becky Lynch for putting on a fantastic performance with Lita. And I don't know if that's going to catapult Lita to another match at WrestleMania against insert name here, or if that
wouldn't surprise me at all.
I want to, my heart says she can still go. And a couple years ago, Ricky the Dragon Steamboat had a match on WrestleMania, and everyone got up and within the first 2 to 3 minutes said you was clapping, you still got it.
Yep.
And if the Saudi Arabia crowd could have said you still got it, they would have done that. And she looked fantastic. And I was really happy the way that was presented and the fact that she was able to go back in the ring and get that crowd interaction and for her to be celebrated the way that she was celebrated. That's when I was really, really, really happy.
For example, I mean, if she shows up at WrestleMania against Rhea Ripley, I mean, that would be a wonderful match. If she shows up against Alexa Bliss, that'd be a wonderful match. You know, all the ladies are probably lining up to say, "Hey, Lita, if you're gonna have a match at WrestleMania, you know, I don't have anything going on right now. Let's sit down and put our heads together and see what we can come up with."
Yeah, I really hope that they decide that's what they're going to do. I mean, it will be just very nostalgic, especially for all the fans, because that's what we want to see, and we know Lita can do it right now. Let's take advantage of. Yeah. You're going to bring anybody off of the bench, like you guys have been doing for everybody else. Here's your chance. Let's do it.
I will end. Because I have 2 other things on my list, I will pick the stronger of the 2. and the less obvious of the two, in my opinion. I will end with what I think is the masterstroke of having Tommaso Ciampa come up on Raw and interact with some people up there, and having Dolph Ziggler come down to NXT and interact with some people down there. Dolph Ziggler is another guy where you have to give him kudos for hanging around as long as he has and coming up with ways to stay relevant for as long as he has, because he's a guy that I thought would have been long gone by now and enjoying success in another promotion, whatever that other promotion is, because he got that meteoric push in 2015, I think, maybe, and then he's been largely forgotten about ever since. He potatoed himself around the ring for Goldberg. He, had the horrible feud with Rusev and Lana and, oh, brother, I can't remember her name. The Love Rectangle. The one that was dancing with Fandango. Oh, geez, what was her name?
Oh, that was
Summer Rae.
Summer
Rae. WWE legend Summer Rae.
Patrick is gonna kill you for that one too.
Fine, whatever. And he's all bark and no bite. He's all sizzle and no steak. Yeah, I said it. I said it. I'll say it again.
I said what I said.
Yeah, I got the muscle of wrestling with egos with me. I'll say anything I want. But it's shrewd, actually. Like, if we don't have anything for you up here, let's send you to NXT and have you work with some people down there. And Dolph showing up on NXT makes it feel like a big deal, because down there Dolph can carry himself with a veteran's aura. He's solid on the microphone. We know this. And if you're going to put him in the ring against a guy, that's great. Him and Ciampa have surprisingly good chemistry with each other. And then we all know what a great talent Tommaso Ciampa is. So you have him come up to Raw. He teamed with Finn Balor. Looked great. Yes, he colored his beard, so there's no streaks of gray in his beard anymore. That's fine, whatever. But Tommaso Ciampa is still that same badass that will knock your head off if you look at him sideways. Has overcome injuries repeatedly in his career and has the championship pedigree that we come to expect from somebody who's gone through NXT. I think that's a nice little, moving the chess pieces around. How can we best utilize you if you're not in the main event against Brock, or if you're not in the main event against Roman, or you're not running for the Intercontinental Championship or whatever. So that will be my final nice thing to say about WWE this evening.
My last statement I would like to make, that is positive. I said the word positive. I want you to sit here and he's hating again. The positive thing that I would like to say is that we keep seeing one individual person who is still doing great work on the mic, that is still doing great work, period. And that person is The Miz. The Miz was in that fantastic feud with him and his wife, and Edge and his wife Beth, on the mic doing what he does. Right now, he's about to get into a feud with Rey Mysterio and his son, Logan Paul, and the Cleveland connection that they have there. And this is the best. This is one of the great things that he can be entrusted with. Not that he has to. He was entrusted last WrestleMania with making sure the Bad Bunny looked fantastic, along with his tag team partner at the time,
Damian Priest,
but also at the same time Morrison.
Yeah,
with many of those spots, which is fantastic, and the fact that they trust him, especially with Logan Paul, to carry this with a legend like Rey Mysterio. And Rey could do it himself, don't get me wrong, but this is also to elevate Rey's son and also to elevate Logan Paul at the same time. And I think that Miz is the one guy that say, you know what, okay, we don't have to worry about it. He got this. And I think that's another thing that they're going to do. And that's why I like what he's doing right now.
Which is why The Miz one day is going to waltz into the Hall of Fame, in my opinion, because he has been so adaptable over the years. I mean, and he's, because I will freely admit, when he first came out, I couldn't stand him. And then over the course of years, he won me over with just the work ethic, you know, his improvement on the mic, and his ability to carry a feud. You know, the way he did with Shane in 2019. You know, the way he did. I thought he carried the Cena feud, quite honestly. You know, you go back and you look at that mic work, it was Miz that was doing, you know, all of those, you know, most of the great promos there. And then, yeah, the way he worked with Bad Bunny and the way he's going to work with Logan Paul this year. I mean, how could Miz not be a Hall of Famer at this point? He's done everything that you can do, except win a Royal Rumble, but that's fine.
We sit here and we forget about. We only look at the top. We look at the top guys. We look at the Romans. We look at the Brock Lesnar's. But we also sometimes forget, you know, the chess players that are underneath. We forget that, you know, Miz is putting in work and putting in some good work. You know, when he said, when my hand goes up, you're not, you know, I mean, you know, and then that's going to create more heat for him, but that's what he does. He's one of the best heels that are out there right now. End of story, bar none, and no one can sit here and argue it. And that's not even him having a belt.
Right.
And you know, that's another huge gigantic thing. Oh well, I've got to have a belt to be relevant right now. He's showing that he can do that with no title and letting somebody else have the shine, which is amazing at the same time, and we need to recognize that.
So I guess there's only one thing left to do this evening. You ready to apologize? Are you?
Nope.
Well, I mean, you sat here and denigrated my idea for a segment. Say 5 nice things. We just came up with 10 positive things about WWE. It only took us about 35 minutes.
I'm gonna sit here and I'm gonna say this to Brian. I'm gonna say this to all of you in Wrestling Egos with Eagles fans. Now we did say 5 positive things by Brian, 5 positive things from me, but let me just make sure that I'm, as Devon, was it Bubba Ray Dudley said, I'm crystal clear. There are way more negatives that I could have said, but I didn't. But we talked about positive, so we're going to keep it positive tonight. Now, next week,
what tonight's all about. We're accentuating the positive.
Positivity to everyone. Now, next week, y'all can forget it.
There's about 97 other podcasts these people can go to if they want negative.
I know, but next week we're gonna go a little different. Again, ladies and gentlemen, if you want us to critique something, if you want us to give positive energy about another company, or 5 things about a specific wrestler, how about that? You know,
that'd be a good direction to go.
You guys tell us what you would like. Hey, I would love to give 5 positive things about X, Y, and Z. I do have. I'm going to tease this a little bit. I talked to Intellectual Savior earlier, and I'm going to bring this up. We're going to talk about this in maybe not this week or next week, but in a couple weeks. I'm going to bring up a specific match that we're gonna pretty much critique, because it's not just about the match itself. It's about things that were going on around the match and the participants in the match at that particular moment in time, and we're gonna phrase it. and we're going to talk about it, and we're going to talk about the implications of it. And I think it's going to be a fantastic subject to go over. Brian thinks it's a good idea, and we have a couple other people have said this is a really good idea. We should touch base. Yeah. And I think this is going to be great for everyone, and it's very interesting. Look out for it. That's all I'm going to tell you, people.
Ooh,
I can't give you any more.
You got to take out the tea leaves and start reading them and try and figure out.
Steak. I got a
steak.
You just can't get it yet. But just
talking about Test versus Scotty 2 Hotty from 1999. Is that what he's talking about? I don't know.
No way.
It's not Test versus Scotty 2 Hotty from 1999, folks. But if you want to cue that match up and give us your thoughts on it, go for it. Rest in peace, Test.
But ladies and gentlemen, this is the I will say that it is a big steak. I'm talking like a steak we're going to feed a lion in the jungle to. And
it's dangerous because if eating one steak, he wants two.
Oh, but this is a big steak. And ladies and gentlemen, it does have title implications to it with a twist.
Well, I think based off of that little teaser, it's time to get Ruth's Chris Steakhouse on the phone and put in a takeout order or a couple. For all of us associated with Wrestling with Egos, for the Big Don, and for myself, the intellectual save of the wrestling masses, thank you as always for watching. Thank you for consuming our content on YouTube or whatever podcast platform you're hearing us on or watching us on. Leave us a 5-star review, like, and subscribe. We'll continue that drive for 500 subscribers. I would love nothing more than to woo chop Patrick into oblivion, but it's more about getting this great content in front of your eyeballs and into your eardrums. We are the Lean Mean Wrestle Talking Machine. Thank you as always for all of your interactions. We thrive off of your feedback. So for all of us, thank you for watching. This right here is why we love professional wrestling.